Hey everybody, it's your boy Nuke out in Las Vegas. Today, for our Just the Tip Tuesday, got an interesting one for you. I'm going to do a reaction video a little bit and talk about what's going on with the rental prices because rent is too damn high.
Because the rent is too damn high.
So this is a video that was on Fox 5 News here in Las Vegas from last week, and let's go ahead and get into it.
How high can your rent raise go? A Valley man says he got this notice. The rent would go from about $1,500 to $4,000 a month for this property.
Are you getting that? $1,500 to $4,000. So keep that in mind.
And if he's outside a lease and still staying there, there's a day rate to live here, about $260 a day, or close to $8,000 a month.
Okay, for those of you who live here, have been here, you can stay in a casino for less money than that, especially the lower priced properties like Circus or and some of the others.
A month. There is no law in Nevada limiting any rent raises, and the landlord's family says this is what they're asking. This is their right to name the price.
Nevada is a very libertarian state, so there are actually very few laws here. Like you'll see people carrying guns and everything on their hip. It's actually legal as long as it's not concealed. And that's because if it's not in the law and you do it, then it's not illegal. There is nothing in the law that says you cannot carry a gun strapped to your hip in Nevada. Well, same thing, believe it or not, there's no law that says you cannot drive naked. So legally, you can drive naked in Nevada. Interesting fact.
The tenant's attorney says he is fighting it.
Our industry was shut down for almost 18 months straight, like no shows at all.
For those who work in live entertainment in Las Vegas, for 2 years, so many workers like Derek could barely make it and barely afford rent. At this home in the West Valley near Hualapai and Desert Inn, rent came out to roughly $1,500 a month. Unemployment through PUA went a long way to pay rent. Last fall, then came the notice many renters dread. How much will rent go up?
Raising the rent from $1,535 to $4,000.
When you saw that, what'd you?
It's just a little bit worse than I thought at first. So it said $3,950, but it's $3,950 plus, bringing it to an even $4,000.
I laughed. Literally, I laughed out loud. This has got to be a joke. Who does this? How does this happen?
Derek says no neighbors are paying anywhere close to that.
I don't know anybody paying anywhere close to that. For houses that size, it should be $2,200, $2,300, which, in all honesty, a few years ago would have been $1,200. So rent has doubled, just like buying a house has.
Zillow Search has a suggested monthly rate for the home, $2,100 a month. On another rental notice from the landlord, it states the holdover fees, or rate outside the lease, $263 a day. That would send rent soaring to around $8,000 a month for this house. Derek says there's no way he...
Now, let's be clear on this. This is a holdover fee, so someone who is renting month to month or day to day, this is really outside of where it should be. And of course, it does a reset. Let me just go back and get to that point.
How high can your way to pay rent? Last fall, or rate outside the lease, $263 a day. That would send rent soaring to around $8,000 a month for this house. Derek says there's no way he wants to stay here at all.
But I would have moved 6 months ago, but to move right now, it'll cost you to get into a house $6,000, $8,000.
So let's talk about that. He is absolutely correct. To get into a house now for a rental is going to cost you that. You're going to have your first month's rent. You're going to have your security deposit. And they can charge you whatever they want. In all honesty, you can get into a house if you have a 660 credit score or better for cheaper than renting right now. Plus, housing is going to go up for at least the next 4 years. If you have the credit score, you need to get in there. And a big problem that we have right now, the landlords want better credit than it'll take to buy. Some of them want a FICO score over 700. I'm being serious.
December, the landlord's relative who manages the property says she sent an eviction notice. Derek applied for CHAP, federal rent assistance, through Clark County. He says CHAP referred him to Legal Aid Center of Southern Nevada.
We didn't agree to the fourth.
Okay, I'm going to make a little comment here. I don't know if anybody else noticed it. It was kind of covered up by the Chiron, the little news banner thing there. But I just had to say it. Oh boy showed up in a suit wearing sneakers with no socks. I don't know if anybody else noticed that. I just saw it. I was like, you got to be kidding me. You're going to show up fly in a suit and wear sneakers with no socks. It's like, I just put this on just for this.
$4,000. I would argue the provision doubling the rent is unconscionable. This was a unilateral decision by the landlord. He couldn't agree to that amount of money, and it would be unreasonable to do so.
What the attorney for legal aid tells me they're looking at is this clause in Derek's lease. It says right here, during a holdover not authorized by the landlord, rent shall increase by 100%. So the attorney's arguing here that if a judge looks at this and agrees to it, wouldn't rent be $3,000, not $4,000? But the property manager and family members says this is an old lease. The property manager declined to answer this one question. How can anyone afford that high of a rent raise? In a very...
You know what? I cannot speak for the property owner. They're not planning to get that from anybody else. They just want this dude out. They don't want to tell him why they want him out. Maybe they figure they can get $3,000 for it. All honesty, they're going to get maybe 24, 25. Nobody can afford to pay $4,000 for this place. More than likely, they have some plans for it. And if I had to guess, their plan is to Airbnb it, because the state legislature passed a law about Airbnb that says the cities cannot stop it. So guess what? They're probably planning to Airbnb this sucker and collect that $283 per day that they can get from somebody on Airbnb. Be gone, and we're going to make some money. My guess. Can't confirm it.
very lengthy email, she says. If a tenant doesn't want to pay what is being asked in order to rent a property, they don't have to rent it. No one is obligating anyone to rent a property they cannot afford. Rent is $4,000 a month, and in holdover, it does double at that rate. The landlord's an elderly senior citizen. It's been made clear to the tenant that we need the property back. This is about...
It's been made clear to the tenant we need the property back. This wasn't about raising rent. They need the property back. And they're just making him say, I'm the one leaving by raising it that amount. Oh, the plot thickens.
The health and well-being of an elderly lady going blind who just wants to move back into a house she owns.
If she's an elderly lady going blind, you really think she's planning to move back into that house? And they just said they're raising it just so they can make him leave. This is about family member. You know what? I can't speculate. I think they're trying to Airbnb this place. If they were trying to move back in, she would have just said, hey, I'm not renewing your lease. Very simple.
CHAP can pay the increased rent, or $4,000 a month, based on the actual lease terms. It's really a shame CHAP is the reason for causing all of these problems when they're supposed to be here helping. Correspondence from CHAP.
Now they're trying to blame somebody else. Talk about some gaslighting and blame shifting. Oh my goodness.
CHAP to Derek says the program offered the family $3,000 a month. She told them and tells me she won't accept it.
I know that my case,
Because they want him out.
as far as rent being doubled, is special. Conversely, I know that there are thousands of people here in Las Vegas dealing with significant increases that they can't afford.
How high?
Okay, so let's go ahead and get my little interpretation on it. I've already given it. They want it for some other reason, either to sell because the market is so hot, or to Airbnb it. It's one of those two reasons. They need him out, and for some odd reason, I don't know why, Maybe it's somewhere buried in the contract that we can't see that says he has a right to renew the contract. And with that, they're trying to make it as hard as possible. So when we're talking about just the tip is one. Read your contract to see what the provisions are, because they're going way outside of it, and they claim that it's an old contract. Why didn't they produce the new one? Interesting. The next thing I would talk about is you really need to start looking at housing right now. Landlords are going to continue to do stuff like that, especially here in Las Vegas, where the state legislature passed that provision. The cities can't stop Airbnb. A lot of people are going to start buying up houses for Airbnb because you're in Vegas. A lot of people come here. So that was your Just a Tip moment. If you enjoyed this reaction video, please leave some comments below, because I do more of these for either a regular video or for Just a Tip Tuesday or any other video, because anything that's housing related, I would love to react and talk to you guys and give a realtor's perspective, my perspective. I'm not an expert. I just stayed at the Holiday Inn Express. So if you have not subscribed, of course, you know the obligatory. Please subscribe. Please hit the like button, blah, blah, blah. And of course, I got more videos for you guys to watch as you're going through and learn about the housing process in Las Vegas and the rest of the country.